Everybody, video here for you today. This is my second video of the day. This is a place a little north of Baalbek. I found this about 4 days ago. And this is my second video of the day. In case you missed it a little earlier, I uploaded a chat with NEXT. He takes tour groups to Egypt and Peru and other places. Knows a heck of a lot about ancient history. Knew John Anthony West. He's going to Egypt with Christopher Dunn coming up and also doing an Ancient America tour. So it was great chatting with him last night, getting to know him. We talked about all sorts of stuff. But today's video, we are going to go down to a little north of Baalbek. And as I said in my last video, I'm being a little more pickier with stuff I talk about. Stuff really has to interest me. After 2,000 videos, your desire to make a video isn't as strong as it once was. But then you find a place like this and your interest gets recharged all over again. This is called the Hermel Pyramid, even though it really isn't a pyramid. It's more of a tower with a pyramid on top. And it's right down here. You can't see it very well on Google Earth, but here is what they call the Hermel Pyramid. Other websites call this a funerary monument. But who are they honoring here? Well, to me, it's pretty clear where this comes from. Let's just go down to Street View here and take a look. But this tower, or funerary monument, or pyramid as it is called, the Hermel Pyramid, this comes from the people who were in ancient Emesa, ancient Homs, in the 1st century, and they were the ones who were worshiping at Baalbek right before the Romans built there. This is a very important time in history, and it's been kind of scrubbed from the record books. Now, I will leave a few links below, but there are a few reasons why I wanted to talk about this today. One, because it directly connects in with research I have done for a long time. My longtime subs know that I researched the Shroud of Turin just because nobody has given us a good answer what that relic is all about. And the history is totally lost in my opinion. And it's very important to the origin of certain religious stories. But this is the monument here. The second reason I wanted to talk about it is because this place is threatened. In 2007, they put this little fence up here and they tried to do a little reconstruction. There was also reconstruction done in 1931 because this monument was pretty much in ruins. But there you get a good look at it. But I was just stunned when I first saw this because I was very familiar with this structure. This is the mausoleum coming from ancient Emesa, ancient Homs, the very people who were worshiping at Baalbek in the 1st century right before the Romans got there. And these two structures appear very, very similar to me. I will leave a few links below. Here is one article, Kamouh el Hermel, Lebanon. Goes over the history here. Here is another website. The Hermel Pyramid, Bekaa Valley, Lebanon. And this is in the Bekaa Valley, same valley as Baalbek. Here is a look at this place. It says, located at the northern end of the Bekaa Valley in the middle of nowhere, this lonely pyramid rises almost 100 feet above a small hill on which it was built. It can be seen for miles around, but no one is sure what this unusual monument is intended to be or why it is alone. It resembles some of the tower tombs at Palmyra to the east, and some believe it is the tomb of a prince dating from the 1st or 2nd century BC, and I actually think this comes from the 1st century AD, and little is known about it because not many people have studied this kingdom in Emesa, ancient Homs, and very little is known about it because the Romans basically buried this history. Here is one old pic coming from about 90 years ago. The inscriptions on this structure have been pretty much lost. Let's just do a little bit of reading here. Here is another look at the facade. It says, unfortunately, the inscriptions are no longer there, so the pyramid may always remain a mystery. Well, not so much to me. I pretty much know where this comes from. They say it might come from a Syrian prince. Actually, he was a priest, a sun king, an ancient Baalbek. Here's a drawing of this ancient structure coming from about 90 years ago, but it just smacked me in the face how similar this was to the ancient mausoleum. Even these pillars built into it here. The ancient mausoleum in ancient Homs, ancient Emesa, this kingdom that's been kind of lost to history. This place is about 50 kilometers north of Baalbek and exactly 50 kilometers south of ancient Homs, ancient Emesa. Seems to be a pretty symbolic place to put a very important funerary structure. Now, I thought somebody else would for sure make this connection. Here is just one website I found that made this connection. Here is an 1851 painting. I guess that's the date that this painting was done, of the Hermel Pyramid, as it is called. It says, 135-kilometer drive away from Beirut and 50 kilometers from Baalbek stands magnificently the underrated 2,200-year-old Pyramid of Hermel. And if this is a big mystery and they don't know who built it, I don't see how they can put a date on it. Maybe just trying to throw you off of the real history of where this came from. It says it has been suggested to date back to the 2nd century BC, but I think this is a little under 2,000 years old. Here he is driving up to this ancient structure with the pyramid on top out in the middle of nowhere. And just going down here, he makes a comparison between the Kamouh el Hermel Pyramid and the ancient mausoleum in ancient Emesa, ancient Homs. And they seem to be very similar, so probably built by the very same people. It says, locals claim that it gave its name to Hermel town, as it is tribute to the ancient Aramaic root Hermel, which translates to the Pyramid of God. Just doing a little reading here, it says, while doing some research, I found a remarkable similarity between Kamouh el Hermel and the mausoleum of Emesa, a monument that formerly stood in the necropolis of Tel Abu Saboun, modern-day Homs, Syria. The remains of that monument were blown up with dynamite in 1911 in order to make way for an oil depot. The two monuments are only 60 kilometers apart, and I think that's a little much there. I think it's a little under that. But just going on here, here is a look at this place. There was some animal inscriptions on the front, and they really don't know what they all mean. It says, after being partially damaged by treasure hunters and earthquakes, the monument was restored in 1931 under the French mandate, leaving a difference in hue between the original stones and those added during restorations. Says the Lebanese government issued 2 series of stamps honoring Kamouh el Hermel, the first in 1948 and the second during the excavation work in 1974. So I guess this thing has been restored a few different times. It says, despite being clearly visible from afar, the monument has been heavily vandalized by locals, covering all 4 faces of the base in graffiti. In 2007, after several requests, the Ministry of Culture cleaned its base and built a fence to protect it. Unfortunately, it did not take long before it was full of graffiti all over again, as no serious measures have been taken to preserve it. So that is one reason why I'm talking about this place. Who knows how much longer this place will be in the condition it is. Now here's an article I found just in the last week. This is about the best article I've ever found on the Klein Kings of Emesa, the study of local identities in the Roman East. And this all was happening in the very eastern part of the Roman Empire. A perceived miracle was making the rounds in religious texts, so the Romans came in here, built at Baalbek, and kind of eliminated this story and kind of wrote their own history of this guy in this place. It's a very complicated thing to talk about, and I can't make one video going over all this. It's just beyond me. This is about lost history and texts that were rewritten in later years, but a very important story that became a worldwide sensation. Here are artifacts coming from this kingdom in Emesa. Some masks, other things. Here are some coin type things. Other artifacts that were found in the necropolis at ancient Homs. This is pretty interesting to me. When I first got into this, I found this article and was reading for about the next couple hours. But one thing about this kingdom at Emesa, what did the royals wear in their worship services? They wore purple tunics, purple robes. Here are some more artifacts coming from the kingdom of Emesa that was thriving in the 1st century and then was ended around 73 AD. I found it very interesting that they wore purple tunics, purple robes. That is a direct connection to the New Testament story. But I will leave this link below if you want to read. They make the connection between Emesa and Baalbek very well in what they were worshiping, and also the way certain things at Baalbek were constructed. But it goes over many things. An inscription, one inscription that was found at this pyramid in Hermel. And just going down here, they have a diagram of the mausoleum here in Emesa. Here it is right here. This is identical to the Hermel pyramid structure, I believe. but there was one inscription here that called this the Mountain of God, and very similar inscriptions were found at Sogmatar from the Abgar dynasty, the very one who received the holy linen and the apocryphal texts and other stories. And Eusebius, in about 325, puts out a ridiculous story on this linen with the image on it. And then the church does the bogus investigation of the dating, the C14 dating. About 40 years ago, this story has been buried, the true history of the Shroud of Turin. I'll be talking a lot more on it. For new subs, I started investigating the Shroud of Turin maybe about 6 years ago when I was doing a story on the Knights Templar. Originally, I thought this for sure was a medieval hoax. A lot of people think Da Vinci did this, but this came into public notoriety. It was shown about 5 decades before Da Vinci was even born. And I know Scott Walter told me that he thinks Da Vinci is the one who did the Shroud of Turin. The leading expert in ancient America on the Holy Grail has no clue about the history of this artifact. But the more I investigated, I realized there was a whole lost history that was buried about this object for certain reasons. And I believe I got to the bottom of it. And really, I had to rethink a lot of things I believed in while looking into this, but I think I got to the bottom of the story. But I remember when I first came to the realization that this was an actual 2,000-year-old artifact, and the similarities to the New Testament story, I just had all sorts of trouble accepting that, and it really took me years to accept it. And I tried to debunk what I believe, because it's a lot easier to debunk something than prove something. And this is something I still have trouble with, accepting the story of this thing and where it actually comes from and how important it is. But I believe I have the whole story wrapped up. That is a video on the Hermel Pyramid built by the people who were worshiping at Baalbek. This is a very important place. As far as later history being wrote, where it came from, part of the greatest story never told, I will be speaking much more on the Shroud of Turin, but I believe that the person on the shroud came from these people in Emesa, ancient Homs. Leader was crucified here at the end of the Jewish revolt. A perceived miracle happened, and it changed the course of history. Hope you thought that was interesting. Much more to come on this subject. I'm thoroughly interested in it, once again, based on some new discoveries. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.